Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm your host, Alex Whiteley. And joining me today is Jess Bailey from Team for You. Thank you so much for joining me, Jess.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, when we started talking about doing this show, I got really, I suppose excited is the wrong word to say when to talk about this subject, because obviously the pandemic has affected a lot of people, especially when it comes to work and the people like yourselves that are trying to find work for people that need work. You know, it's a crazy cycle that's happened, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's been quite a year last year, definitely. And I think we all went into Christmas with the view that 2021 was going to be different and better and optimistic. I think a lot of us saw this lockdown coming. However, I've got to say, when infection rates were what they were at Christmas and plans that people had got put on hold and pushed back or didn't happen because of the new variant and various other things. But yes, I think although it's been really tough, and let's be honest, it has been, I don't think there's anyone that hasn't felt affected by this in some way. I think remaining optimistic is hugely important and positive, and we have to, we now know we've got a way out of this with the vaccine and everything else. And although a lot of us are working remotely, as you and I are at the moment also, that we will come back together. That's what I really wanted to sort of make sure comes across from our point of view today, is that this will get better, but it is definitely going to be a long road, I think, before we're back to normal, or the old normal.
Yeah, I agree. And when it comes to like optimism, I mean, first of all, I agree with you completely. 2021 was like, I was like, yeah, it's new year. Yeah. We can do new things. But like, I think it was that door got very quickly slammed shut by Boris, but understandably.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But when it comes to optimism, we've been seeing a lot of really interesting changes in sort of how people have been accessing things virtually, electronically, through websites, things like this, what we're doing now. There's a lot of what we've learned a lot as a show, and what we can actually do with things like Zoom and StreamYard and YouTube and all these sort of things that we can do. So there's like, even though it's been a terrible year and these things have happened, we've kind of evolved, and that's actually been quite encouraging, right?
It is, definitely. I think learning to adapt is something I wasn't particularly good at before the pandemic. You change my routine, I don't like it. What are you doing? Hang on, no, I'm doing that. It's Thursday. But we've all had to learn to adapt, and that hasn't been a choice, really, has it? It's been an absolute necessity in order to keep going and to keep your business alive and to keep your job, is to learn to adapt. And I've got to say, I'm not a big fan of working from home. I don't like it. I feel cut off from people. I guess it's my industry, but I'm very much a people person. Networking's my favorite thing to do. And not being able to sort of see people and physically see them, and touch base with them and catch up and things like that. It's been incredibly tough. However, working from home, I think, has its place more than people maybe realised, because of, as you say, technology and virtual, meetings like this. And if you design a time properly and you plan well, I think working from home can also be a pretty effective thing. I know in our business, things like payroll, without the interruptions and without the phone ringing, and it does have its place. I think when you work in a sales role, being together is very important, because you bounce off each other. You kind of, you feel that buzz a little bit when you're in a sort of sales type of role. And I know that our consultants have found working from home pretty difficult in that respect, because they haven't been in touch. Sometimes we will just put Zoom on our phones or whatever, and have each other on screen, but we're typing on the keyboard and we're working away. You almost forget you're there, and it's almost trying to make it like being in the office, but it's not the same. Let's be honest. Let's cut to the chase. Absolutely. I know a lot of us and across all sectors and all industries are really missing being in the office and being in that workplace every day. It's, you get up in the morning, I put my makeup on. You might not, Alex, but I put my makeup on, and I get ready for work, and I leave the house at 8:30, and that's my day started then. You don't get that when you can, stay in your pajamas till lunchtime, because no one's actually going to see you. It's difficult.
I get to see both sort of sides of things, because I still work. I still go to the office and stuff like, because I'm a support worker, so I'm kind of out there on the front line. But I say that, by the way, not in a way of the nurses and the people out there actually going out there and putting themselves at risk. They're the heroes for me. But like my wife works from home as well. She does the same as you. She'll have a colleague on the phone, and sometimes they won't even be speaking to each other. They'll just be typing away.
Yeah.
And I walk in from work, and I'll just hear this voice come from somewhere. But it's just so they can have each other to talk to, and that's nice. Yeah. That's because we are social beings, right? We, like you said, we do yearn for that thing, and like. For a weird example of how I'm doing things this year. This is going out in February, so when it's the Super Bowl, I was really looking forward to having a few beers, hickories, and sampling that environment. But the downside to it is I can't do that. But the flip side, I can whip up a Zoom chat with up to 100 people on a screen, and we can have our own little NFL sort of Super Bowl party internationally as well.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there's that, but it's not the same. You're right. I'd rather
It's not. And I kind of stand on the fence a little bit because as much as Zoom calls and you get invited to these kind of, let's all have a Saturday night out in our living rooms on Zoom, and let's, play games or have a quiz or whatever. Yeah. And as much as, and I've done a few of them, I tend to shy away from most of them though, because it makes me sad. It does. It makes me, it does affect me because it's not the same. And in the first lockdown, I live on my own as well, by the way. So I am used to being on my own, but that's why maybe I need the workplace more than some, because I am on my own anyway, a lot of the time. But yeah, those sort of social situations, as much as I see the point of it, and I know people that love them, and they don't mind at all. They really look forward to them. One of my colleagues, Nick, he engages with those kinds of things a lot. I don't know. I find afterwards it does make me feel quite deflated almost. It's fine at the time, but then you kind of all say bye and hang up or whatever, and I sort of sit there and I'm like, oh God, now what? I just want to go out. I just want to see people. And I know this is a first world problem compared to, I get that, I'm talking about things that are potentially a little bit delicate, but at the same time, it does affect you, and it does affect your mental well-being. It does affect the way that you live your life. We're all restricted in so many ways. I've just got the summer in my head. Like, let's just get to the summer, because hopefully by then things will, hopefully the vaccine will be rolled out, and pretty much most people will have had it that really need it. And we can move forward a little bit.
Well, don't say that, man. I haven't done any work on my summer bod. So, I mean...
Don't even start me, honestly.
But no, I totally get you. And it is hard. We've been talking a lot about, a lot of the shows we've been doing over the last couple of weeks about how we've lost that sunshine, and that there's extra hours of sunlight in the afternoon and stuff. It's hard. Yeah, it is hard. But I mean, there is a focus there on sort of mental health for a lot of people, especially if you're on your own like yourself. Because that social aspect isn't there. If you don't mind, let's talk about sort of like what was life like for you pre-COVID, for our team, for you. What were you doing? What was your sort of day-to-day like?
Oh, wow. I actually put a post out this morning on LinkedIn. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, which was a Throwback Thursday post to this time last year. So this week last year, myself and my two colleagues were actually at the launch at Hickory's, oddly, at the launch of the W60 World Tennis Tour.
The Biscuit was there.
I was on the Biscuit. I was on the Biscuit podcast that night too.
Wow.
And we were there, and we were sponsors of the event. We were actually sponsoring the corporate night on the Friday. And we had, tickets to the dinner and all that, we were organising all of that. We were really heavily involved with it. The post that I put out this morning just goes on to kind of say, Team for You opened April 2019. So at this point last year, we were 9 months into being operational and coming towards and hurtling towards our first year in business. And, the phone was ringing, it was busy, we established ourselves, people actually knew who we were. We'd done loads of groundwork with social media, all that kind of stuff. We had clients. So it was great. It was brilliant. And we were so driven and energized and excited by what 2020 had to bring. And it's quite ironic when you look at that now and you just think, oh, what? but I put it out there this morning because it's important to remember those times of feeling like that. I can't wait to feel like that again when we need another consultant because we've just got too much work, and we need to, I don't know, invest in HR services because we've got enough staff now. We need a proper outsourced HR arm, really. I can't wait for that again. And life before COVID for us within the business was, this time last year was really, really busy. We were really making headway with the Shropshire market. As I said, people were starting to actually be, Team for you, yeah, Jess, yeah, I know who you are. I've met you, or I've been in touch with you, or whatever. So yes, I'm trying to look forward to getting back to that point again, because if you overthink it, it can drive you insane sometimes.
I think it's good to use that as an incentive just to keep going, isn't it? Because it's like, we all know that eventually the doors are going to have to open again, and we're going to have to try and find some sort of normality and come out of lockdown. So there is that again. And, the W60 was heartbreaking for us. It really was. I mean, I keep talking about this. In fact, I'm glad you're on the show because you can sort of vindicate what we've been saying, because we were supposed to go out and do all that. The W60 was meant to be the first event for us to go out and actually be. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, same for us. Yeah,
we had Dave Cortina on the show, and he was like, "Yeah, you can have a table. We'll set you up. We'll get you to speak to." So, in fact, I had an international connection with a tennis player from Vermont, from where Tom Bruno is, my co-host for USUC, and we were going to interview her before she came, when she came, and sort of talk about how she felt about it afterwards.
Yeah.
We had this idea, all these amazing ideas, and it just stopped.
Absolutely, and we were the same. We were. I was going to be on the BBC Red Button with some of the BBC journalists. Yeah, we had so much planned. We had we also did the tennis ball trail. If you remember the tennis balls that were placed all around Shrewsbury. So Team for You's ball was in the square. And we'd actually arranged with the Shrewsbury Bid to borrow their AstroTurf. Do you remember outside Ashley's when they AstroTurfed it for a few weeks?
Yes,
doing the road closure. So that belongs to the Shrewsbury Bid, and they were going to lend it to me. And then, of course, with the Shrewsbury Club, we were going to get some junior tennis nets, and we were going to have like Team for You T-shirts and an afternoon in the square, kind of families, actually on Mother's Day, we were in lockdown by that point because it was the Sunday before it started. And lovely Beth from Shropshire Festivals was going to lend me her big deck chairs. And we had it all planned out. And then our big corporate event was the Friday in the tents at the Shrewsbury Club. And it was heartbreaking. It really, really was. Just talking about it, Alex, honestly, it's even now, I know it's nearly 12 months on, but it was a massive shame.
But the thing is, you guys, okay, so the best thing about Shrewsbury is I've found over doing this for the last 2 years is how, like, everything you've just explained there, every single thing that you've just mentioned there is all about how this town collaborates and communicates and works together. So Absolutely. Like, even though we're in this situation now, there's no reason like things like that can't happen again and will happen again, because this is the kind of place we live in, right? And you've got the amazing Shrewsbury Biscuit now there to help people out and tell we are a voice for the town. So that all happened and you were busy. What's operations like for you now? How have things changed, and what sort of you learned from it, all this?
Well, I mean, we had to learn to adapt, and we had to learn to focus a sales drive at a place where we could still break through, because the commercial market, previously to lockdown, we were involved with a lot of solicitors, accountants, very commercial sector within the town. Now, they kept going, which thank goodness they did, and that was great, but they were all working from home. In some industries, they were having to furlough their staff. I was furloughed for a little bit because I made the decision on behalf of the three of us, really, that we didn't need three of us in the business. I was also homeschooling my kids part-time because the children live with me half the time. So, so that was going on as well. But what we did do to kind of combat, as you can imagine, when lockdown happened, every job we had open pretty much got put on hold. And we didn't know how long for. We didn't know if it was going to be for a month or 3 months or 6 months or whatever. So it effectively froze our business in terms of what we had available. But we actually broke into a new market. So we still do now, we have nearly 300 people that work for us, and they're working as temporary workers in food manufacturing, because that never stopped. That carried on every day of the year. In fact, I think meat production wise, everyone was eating more because everyone's at home more, and wanting to kind of, go to the supermarket and stock up and whatever they needed to do. So, so we approached different companies and we got our foot through the door, and we got, it started off with 20, then it moved to 30, then to 40, and we're now at nearly 300. So we have adapted, we have overcome, we have conquered, sort of. A lot of work to do still. But yeah, it's all about just not giving up, having that can-do attitude and that real, go get them, even when you don't feel like it some days, because let's be honest, we all have those days where you could just throw the duvet over your head and not bother today, but you've got a meeting, or you've got somewhere to go or somewhere to be still. So yeah, that's what we've done to combat COVID almost.
It's very dangerous for me to acquire time off work, because then what I tend to do is fill that void up with more stuff. I've booked. I'm on annual leave now until the 8th, right? So what I decided, that was I call it my time in my pants, right? Just to sit on the sofa, be a slob, eat junk food, watch crap TV, right? That's time in my pants. Okay, that's what I call it. I've already today sat and organised a whole week's worth of content to work on.
Oh wow! Yeah,
I can't. I find it hard to do nothing. Okay, I'm just one of those guys. I've got my note. I would just sit up on the table. I had 2 laptops out. I had 1 emails here for the biscuit, and I had editing a YouTube video for USUC, whilst I'm on the phone to the Shropshire Wildlife Trust about future shows that we can do together. This is kind of how I am. I know where you're coming from, because when we first, like last year, sort of May, June, I'd lost my drive a bit, because I was kind of like, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Yeah. You've adapted. And you've carried on, and in fact, you've created a new type of client that you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Breaking into a new industry is not easy, and it's just as we were starting to be known within sort of Shropshire and Shrewsbury particularly, that all stopped, and we were literally back. It felt like day one of the business almost, when we kind of did come back from furlough, when we did, sort of June time, and we did think, right, okay guys, what direction are we going to take this in? And it's a scary thing to do, is to approach an industry. I had no experience of working in fast moving consumable goods, which is what the meat industry is, but here we are, 8 months on from that, and we have another growing contract, which is great.
Did that create sort of those electric kinetic vibes? We can do this.
Yeah, when we kind of got that first order, to supply 20 people to start with, and it has a huge amount of pressure attached to it, because that if you do well with that, there's more available, but you can't screw it up. You just can't. So you have to, all hands on deck then, and really make it work. And keep kind of contact with clients and things, and just make sure that you're providing that really high standard of service, which Team For You is really proud to do.
And I think even if you were sort of treading water at the moment, even if you're just like getting on by and kind of like, oh, we can only just pay for our bills, we can only just get this done. Like, it's good to remain sort of in play throughout all this, because as soon as the world does open again, there's just going to be a huge economic explosion, I imagine, especially when it comes to like the pubs, the restaurants, everything that can open again. I'm hoping there's going to be a huge influx and more jobs, more things going on, and you just need to try and survive, isn't it?
I really hope so. What worries me is the end of the furlough scheme. I think when we see the end of the furlough scheme at the end of April, people that are furloughed at the moment, some anyway, will they or won't they have a job to return to? And I don't want to be doom and gloom. That's not what the point of this podcast is, but we're being real as well, right? So as much as, yes, the world will open again, and yes, there's going to be this influx of people that want to go out, get out, spend money, great, brilliant. I just hope that the support almost outweighs the inevitable, which is that some places won't survive. And I was talking to a candidate yesterday who was sort of saying to me, "Oh, I bet you've got loads of candidates at the moment that are all asking you for a job." And as much as, yes, there are definitely candidates around, anybody that's in a job knows that if they leave their job and move somewhere else, they're not entitled to the furlough, because so that's a massive risk. If you're in a job at the moment, trying to talk to a candidate about a new opportunity is a really difficult thing to do. Cool. Yes, there are lots of people that are actively looking for work, and they just want a job, whether it's for a week or forever. They don't, they just have to pay bills, as we all do. And also from a client's perspective, I think recruiters get a pretty bad rep a lot of the time from clients. Usually clients I spoke to, especially new clients, have had at least one poor experience with a recruiter where they've taken someone on, they've left after a week, or they've, had an agency put 12 candidates to them and none of them are capable of doing the job. So when you're breaking through those barriers at the start, the way that we add value is that, we can headhunt, we can, save you the admin, we can take all that stress and headache away from you, and that's great. And we can really drill down to find that bespoke person. One thing coming out of the pandemic is that the candidate pool is going to be huge. So we're now trying to add value by making sure that, I see it all the time. You maybe have an admin assistant role that a client's asked you to try and source for them, and you get, senior marketing managers applying for it, and they're way overqualified. The salary is like a 40k drop for them, but because of their situation, they're willing to do it. And it's sad. It's really sad. And we see it all the time, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think coming out of the pandemic, it's going to throw all kinds of problems our way, but better problems to have than everyone being sat at home in lockdown and not knowing which way's next. I think when we come out of this, at least it will provide some clarity where you can see the situation in front of us, and then we know what we're dealing with, and we can, Team View obviously will help as many people as possible.
It's great that you're looking at those problems already, and you're kind of like, okay, well, we can approach that in whatever. When it comes to like what you guys have been having to do throughout the lockdown from the beginning, when it comes to languages and the way you communicate with your clients, how have you guys had to adapt in the way, because there's going to be a lot of heartbroken people out there, a lot of frustrated people. What's that been like for you guys? I know this sounds like doom and gloom, but it's not. It shows progression. It shows like how you've learned.
Yeah, it's an important topic as well. Yeah, I think in terms of approaching new clients, especially, that has to be done very cautiously, because you can call somebody and talk to them about, we're Team View, this is what we do, this is how we can help you, and their answer might be, well, actually, I'm just about to make 8 people redundant in my team, so I definitely don't want to even talk about recruitment right now. And that's where, we're not big fans of making cold sales calls anyway. We are a little bit more intuitive than that. We use LinkedIn a lot. We open up discussions that way. I think you can get a really warm conversation going on LinkedIn as well with potentially with clients and with candidates, actually. I think it's a great way to communicate. Yes, I think selling at the moment, you do have to be very, very careful and make sure before you just, hit a new client up that you know the background of what their situation is, because you can drop yourself in it really, really easily. And it's one thing we say to our consultants is, we don't expect you just to be blasting out cold. We don't really ever do that anyway, but new business is important. Of course it is. That's going to be the way that we're going to move out of this, is by gaining new clients as well as, providing a service to the ones that we've already got. I think it's just language, as you say, is really important, and an open communication, but done quite delicately at the same time.
Yeah, it is important, because like you said, we're not here to talk about the negative things, but you've got to be real. That's genuine. You can't. It is difficult for a lot of people. But what successes have you had with? You started off into a new industry, but what successes have you had with directing people to where they need to go? Have you had a lot of good things to talk about? Sort of.
Yeah, what you mean, like with sort of engaging with candidates and helping them?
Yeah, what's continued to work for you, basically? What's continued to work for you in way of guiding people towards a new job? Is there something that's just been consistently okay and never really had any problems?
Yeah, I'm always really honest with people. So even and actually, conversation we've had to have with people a lot at the moment is, you're overqualified for this job. That's a really tough one. But honestly, we've had some amazing candidates that have come through, and I'm like, look, can I catch up with you in a month? Because if I do get a new vacancy come in, you'd be perfect for it. But you're like massively, massively overqualified for this job. You can't undersell yourself. You have to breathe, hold on tight, and the right thing will come your way. You can't just jump into, a job that you could have done when you were 19 and you're now, 45, and you've got, 30 years experience since you sort of left school or whatever. But I also get that everyone needs to work. So I fully understand why they're applying for that job. Of course I do. The first thing my client's going to say to me is, what are you putting them in front of me for? Because they're overqualified, which sounds really unfair. So again, language is really important, that delicate sort of, look, let's try and see if we can work together. Let me see if I can contact a contact of a contact who might know of something opening up, and we can try and help you that way. One thing I've had throughout this pandemic is contact with young people that are in education still and are looking to, they were looking to take their A-levels this summer. Of course, that's not going to happen for them, sadly. But they're Year 12 students who are going to find themselves in the biggest candidate pool we've seen for decades, likely, by the end of this, where, they're going to sink or swim, and it's trying to encourage them, yet prepare them for what's in front of them in terms of employment and finding a job. And that's something that I really enjoy doing, is engaging with young people. I've been doing it on Zoom recently, where just, trying to talk to them. We do some dummy run interviews. I give them some tips. I kind of, I'll help them write the CV. I won't do it for them. That's one thing I'm quite clear about, is it's your CV, you need to write it. But when you've written it, let me see it. I'll see what I can do, and that kind of thing. And just trying to provide some sort of support to young people who, I wouldn't want to be 17 at the moment, because it is a very, very, very difficult thing. Anyway, I think we all remember our first interview after we'd left school. I know I screwed mine up. I don't know about anyone else.
I remember going to this place for the job for an assistant manager at this place, and I walked in, and they were like, "Oh, Chris is waiting for you upstairs for the interview." I was like, "Don't worry, I'll knock him dead." And they were like, "Yeah, Chris is a woman." And I was like, "Okay, I got the job. Oh, well done. Gifted again."
Yeah. What was your first job then, Alex? What was your first ever job?
I've been working since I was about 14. I'd always have a job. I'd always have work in a coffee shop. That was my first ever job. Yeah. And I remember, I pulled a sickie once by saying, "Oh man, I've got to go to the hospital. My brother's broken his leg." Right? I don't know why I said that. That was a really horrible thing. I was 15 at the time. The next day, I didn't know my brother was in town. He walks into the coffee shop.
Oh no! Oh no!
Things you do when you're younger. Yeah, that was my first job. Just learning to. I learned how to cook. I learned how to clean. I learned how to speak to people. It was really important.
Definitely. My first ever job was at Radbrook Co-op.
Wow.
The big co-op in Radbrook, and I was on the checkouts there I was 16, so I would have been at sixth form. I would have been lower sixth, and I remember, I think my pay was something like £2.09 an hour or something ridiculous like that. And you just think, God, you'd never get away with that now, not in a million years. I remember once dropping in my first sort of few shifts, I was scanning, obviously, this guy's food through, and I don't know how I managed to do it. I managed to break an entire tray of eggs on him, which was pretty bad. I'll never forget it. But happy days. They're good for you, those jobs, though.
It's, I think it's really... people don't realize how important those little jobs are. I did work at Asda for it's gonna be 8 years. I was on security, which was very much a front facing job, and sometimes you have to deal with difficult situations. But what that taught me is how to deal with difficult conversations, how to improvise, and also it taught me compassion, which was very important into my journey into support and doing what I do now, because you got to understand people's problems. Okay, and if I'd have known how good I was at just talking down a microphone when I was sort of like 18, if I'd have known that then, I think I'd have been in a different position in life, because this is my calling. This is what I was born to do, But I do believe that those jobs and those situations I've put myself in I've put me where I am today,
Yeah.
It's important. What local sort of resources are available for young people when it comes to learning how to write CVs, the information they need to find out, and the direction they need to find themselves in?
Yeah, so Shropshire Career Service is heavily involved with young people's journey, I guess, into employment. They're a fantastic service. I think they've been around just about forever. I remember I used them when I was a teenager myself. I remember them coming into school when I was in year 9, but they're still around, and they still support and guide young people, direct them the right way. There's lots of online support they can access as well, of course, in terms of helping them write CVs or giving job tips or things like that. If they want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I regularly provide tips for how to nail your first interview, how to overcome nerves, how to prepare, make sure that you know where it is, that kind of thing. So there's lots of help and advice available for people. It's just a question of, I think, instilling confidence in young people that this is going to be tough for them, but it's definitely not going to stop them. You can't allow, especially young people, to feel, as though they basically might as well not bother. That's the last thing we want anybody of any age to think, but particularly young people who haven't got that knowledge and kind of skill set yet because they haven't had a job before. They have to go into this bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and hungry and keen and eager and ready to learn and ready to sort of impress as well. So that's a very important part of, I think, what we can do as adults. And I don't just mean me, I mean all of us. When you're talking to young people, is pick them up, instill confidence, make sure that they know that, you want them to succeed, and let you know how a job interview goes and things like that. I speak to a lot of young people and I always say, let me know how it goes. Nothing to do with Team for You. It's absolutely nothing to do with Team for You, but I genuinely look forward to that email when they say, oh yeah, we got the job, or whatever it is. It makes the world go round, right? It's just, sometimes it's about just being kind.
Yeah. I mean, I was speaking to a young person a while ago. We're talking about sort of college and doing college work at home, rather than going to college, getting on the bus, getting to college, walking to your class, finish class, go to another class, then go to your break, then walk, all this kind of moving around. And like, it's actually more difficult. It's actually more difficult sitting at home and doing, because it's literally, you do one class and then literally you have 5 minutes and then there's another one and then 5 minutes and it's another one. It's literally just intake of information. That's just, it's all condensed. You don't get those little breaks in between. And it sounds like, oh yeah, you could just do college from your bedroom. I wish I had that. It's not like that. You got to have those life experiences as well. No.
You learn science in a science lab, right? You don't learn science in your bedroom.
Exactly. You don't get the Bunsen burner out. Your mom's like, what are you doing?
You can't. Certain subjects particularly, I think, are really hard to study from home. And I don't know, I think just the environment in general, when, like you say, you're moving from an English room to a French room, well, you're with different people for French than you are with English. And that puts you in a different mindset. There's a different teacher. There's a different, even things like the classroom, the layout, the smell, everything. It's like, well, that's where I learn English. That's where I learn
What did you
French.
Get for question 2? There's all those conversations
exactly.
around.
You can't do that the same, can you?
Yeah. And I was going to say, we've spoken to a lot of brilliant, tends to be a lot of younger people. There have been sort of older people on the show that have started COVID careers. They've started their own businesses. They've learned new things. Honestly, there was
amazing.
George from Shropshire Macaroon Company. There was there's been loads of people that have just started their own little businesses. They've learned something new during COVID, and they've put it to something useful. They've learned that. Have you come across anybody that's kind of like, I've managed to sort out myself out a degree in biology or something. I don't know. Somebody that's learned a new skill during lockdown that now wants to go out and put that to the test in a career that they want to go out.
Oh, that's a really good question. Who have I come across that's sort of been quite inspiring? Oh, I should have a much better answer prepared for this. I can't think of anybody in particular. But I have come across a few people that have just, learned new skills, certainly. My kids being 2 of them, actually, they've learned some amazing skills. They've learned how to mop the floor and they've learned how to hoover. They've learned how to cook, all kinds of things. But no, I think there are definitely some very inspirational people out there that have taken charge of this and really, a friend of mine, actually, it's nothing to do with work, but she has lost during lockdown 3 stone. And she's just taken this time to, I think it started when you had that 1 hour a day of exercise back in the first lockdown. Well, she would never have dreamt of going for a walk in a million years. But because that was the only thing she's pretty much allowed to do, she started to do it and she started to enjoy it. And those, that hormones released, that kind of happy hormone and things like that. And she started to really pay attention to the fact that, yes, she was overweight and yes, she needed to do something about it. And she hit her target of 3 stone weight loss by Christmas, in 9 months. That's amazing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely
that's
amazing.
Right there. She absolutely nailed it. And she, and she's really keeping it up. She really wants this to be, the start of a new her. And trust me, when you hit 40, things don't come off the same way as they used to. So, she knows she has to work really hard to kind of maintain that. So yeah, good for her. There's been loads of inspirational stories come out of lockdown and this pandemic, as much as it is very much doom and gloom. And, there's no denying that. There has to be some positive and some inspiration taken from it too. It's important.
Hats off to people like, because all I've managed to do during lockdown is grow a beard. That's it. It is important to see those little bits of inspiration and learn from those people that have gone out there and done it, because it's possible, right? I think one of the biggest sort of success stories during COVID is probably Zoom, 1 hour food delivery everywhere now, and I've spoken to Kevin. He's not been on the show yet. Kevin, you sort this out, mate. When you get this right. But one thing that people could still do throughout the whole thing is order food. Yeah. So this infrastructure of Zoom was kind of almost there, but they just exploded. And then the thing that in conjunction with things like Planet Donut, that has just exploded. All these Liam Tinsley at Feast, all these people that have just gone out there and just, and what that does is it generates more jobs for when the world opens again.
Yeah. And one shout out as well to Beth Heath from Shropshire Festivals. Amazing. I mean, her business has been amazingly affected by COVID, and how, she must have really been through it, but she is so positive. She's so optimistic. And, she did the Shropshire Drive-In, didn't she, at the West Mid and things like that. And she's still got amazing plans for 2021. Her LinkedIn feed's just full of optimism and positivity. Oktoberfest, when that goes ahead in October, hopefully that will still go ahead.
I hope so.
I hope so. One of my favourite events of the year. Things like that. Whether we're going to get a flower show, what do we think? Yes or no to a flower show this year?
I really do hope so. That was that was one of the greatest moments for the Shrewsbury Biscuit. It illustrated Shane's face, honestly. Twice that day we got someone that was like, the woman literally grabbed Shane's shoulder, was like, I like your show, I watched your show. Aww. And he was just like, people know who we are. I was like, yeah, of course they do.
Yeah, I know. Well, we engage with a marketing company that help produce our content on Facebook and LinkedIn and things, and so we do photo shoots with them and sort of live recordings with them once a month, and they post them across our platforms and whatever. And I was in town about 3 months ago with my kids, and this lady just said, "Oh, I know who you are. You're Jess Bailey from Team." My kids are like, "Mum, you're famous." I'm like, "No, not really." But yeah, you do get stopped, don't you? Then kind of like, "I know you." Like, I had the electrician come around last week. He's like, "I've seen you. You look really familiar." And I'm like, okay. He's like, "Are you like on LinkedIn a lot or social media?" It's like, yeah. And people do kind of just get to know who you are. I think it's a bit weird. I'm not used to it, because before Team PU, I was not the sort of person to do this at all. So I've been on a bit of a journey in the last couple of years as well. But it's nice, it's good. The more people that know about things like what you're doing, Team for You, the more people that you can help. Simple, because there are a lot of people out there that do want to. That probably do want to go to work actually and just don't know how. Sounds daft, but there are people out there, like I said, the young people that just struggle with CVs, struggle how to approach someone to try and look for a job. You're very helpful in that circumstance. Yeah, we try to be, but we are also honest with people, and I think that's really important. And as a young person, I know I would have valued honesty as well. You do get the kids that are like, yeah, well, when I finish my levels, I want to walk into a job and it's going to pay me 30 grand a year, and I have to kind of say, no, it's not. We need to just go back to the drawing board on this one a little bit and be quite realistic. But yes, I think encouragement is definitely what young people need. They just need that a little bit of a push. Some of them as well. Some of them do need a bit of a, no, come on, this isn't going to happen on its own. You need to actually, now. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned LinkedIn a few times. I need to get better on LinkedIn, by the way, because I'll pop up once a month and be like, "Hi, everybody," and disappear. I'm useless on it, right? Because, and I'll get there and I'll have like 18 people going, "Hey, man, do you want us to edit for you? Do you want us to promote your podcast? Do you want to do this?"
Yeah.
And I'll have one sincere message. I think a podcast. I was like, "Hey, I like what you're doing," and we would start chatting.
And it was just, exactly.
When you think of LinkedIn, I think of like job interviews and sort of telling people what you do and looking for I don't know, sort of flouting your business and what you're good at, So when I knew somebody be like, "Hey, have you seen what Alex Whiteley's doing? Maybe he's the guy for the job." That's what I think of LinkedIn. I don't know if that's right. But when we talk about sort of online resources, things that people can go and look at right now, right after the show, that can probably help them, what do you think of? What's the best things for you?
Yeah, well, I think LinkedIn is actually one of them. I think, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile and you're looking for a job, you need one. It doesn't happen overnight. It took me, probably a year to 18 months to really grow mine properly. But, connect with people who are relevant to you. So not just people that you want to see content from, but people who you want to see your content, and make sure that you create content. And it's not as easy as it sounds. Content creation is something that needs to be relevant. It needs to be well written. It needs to talk to the right audience. You need to use the right hashtags. You need a basic understanding of that. There are some free LinkedIn tutorials that you can jump on, which will give you kind of the bones of how to start and where to start. So LinkedIn is a massively free online available marketplace and platform for you to sort of grow a network and talk about what you want to talk about, whatever it is. It's definitely helped us as a business for sure. And yeah, there's lots of stuff online. If people after this are kind of thinking, yeah, well, I want, a new direction. I mean, the first thing I would say is, of course, let me have your CV and let's talk. That's, definitely a service that we offer. There's 5 of us in the Shrewsbury branch that, we can all connect with and talk with you and sort of try and steer you in the right direction. We're not careers advisors. As much as I love helping young people, that's not what I do for a living. But we do take a healthy interest, I think, in the next generation. I think that's really important. But whoever you are, whether you're in a position where you weren't expecting to be looking for a new job, but you are because of the pandemic or whatever it is, then yeah, get in touch. Let us know.
When it comes to like careers advisors, things like that, it's a natural art, and it's something that you got to be attuned to. When they started doing the new job roles for people that were in the arts industry, it was such an eye roller. I was like, the thing that you had to fill in and to tell you what you'd be good at. I just thought that was such a bad thing. Yeah. Like for me, for example, my boss is awesome. I chat to my boss about everything. He's really approachable and stuff. But he's like, oh yeah, you've been doing your role for like over 5 years now. Is there anything you want to do? I was like, yeah, talking to microphone. Can I do that? What I'm doing now? I don't think I can. No. So I feel like I like equilibrium, right? I like things to stay the same. Homeostasis. That's not good. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, right? I've seen people do that and fail and come back. Or so I kind of stick what I'm doing. If it's a job, I can do this. If I can get paid to do the Shrewsbury Biscuit, I'm not saying I'll do it for the money, by the way, because that's the wrong reason to do something like this. But if I could do this for a living, I absolutely would do. What would you say to someone that's stuck in a rut like that? Obviously not me personally. No. Someone that has aspirations, but it's not really realistic yet,
Yeah, that's it. I actually, to answer this question, I wrote a blog about a year ago now. I think it was just before the pandemic, and it was called Your Comfort Zone's a Wonderful Place, but Nothing Ever Grows There. Oh. And it's so true. Before this job I do now, I was working in the NHS. Behind a desk every day and, processing admin rotas, all that kind of stuff. I loved it. I absolutely adored it. But I knew I could do more. I just didn't know how to break out and break in. And I wrote this blog that is basically a shout out to anyone who's got the guts to do it. And also be realistic, be kind to yourself. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to step outside your comfort zone, freak out for a bit, because we're all going to do that when we've stepped outside. And the easiest thing to possibly do would be to jump straight back into what because it's safe, it's secure. But when you push yourself and you inspire yourself, it's also a great feeling. It's scary as hell, but it's a brilliant feeling. It really is. And so, I would say definitely to anybody that is looking for a new challenge, we have to use this year now, I think, as something purposeful, something meaningful. So as much as the world's a scary place right now and everything's quite uncertain, just do it, just try it, just see, use this as your year, as your opportunity to really just be you, self-development, personal growth, all that kind of stuff, positive mindset, and just go for it. And make sure you've got the right people around you as well. That, having the right people, the right support, we all know who's good for us and who's not so good for us. And the people that are good for you, hang on to them tight. And they'll support you. They'll hold your hand through it, and they'll also give you a bit of a shove and a push if needed as well. That's always important, I think, in a friendship, in a relationship, as a parent, whatever your situation is. We've all got people around us that are capable of giving us a bit of a kick when we need one. And you need those people in your life for sure.
Yeah, that's Shane for me. I'll send him artwork. I in fact, that happened. We're doing something new. We're doing a virtual market showcase thing soon on Facebook. And I sent him some artwork. And I wanted to go, because I usually really go high detail in my new logos, things like this, and posters. And I wanted to do something really simple. So I did like primary color blocks with some like initials over it, sent it to him. He was like, I hate it. I was like, spent an hour doing that. But I prefer that. I prefer that sort of input. We created something now that's actually quite sexy, I believe. But that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Shane's honesty. Do you know what I mean?
There you go. You see, yes.
It's no good having yes men or no men around you. Those in-betweenies, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, I think honesty is especially. Well, it should always be valued. You know, I think there's ways and ways of being honest. We don't need to be rude about it. We don't need to be, you know, unhelpfully critical. But at the same time, when you can sit down and be honest with somebody, and sometimes doing that with people that you know is even harder than people that you don't. You know, if I have to be honest with my colleagues at work, because we know each other so well, sometimes it's really difficult because the last thing I want to do is fall out with them. But I'm also going to have to say what I think, because if I don't, I'll blow up. So, you know, we can all bite our tongue, but I can't bite mine for very long. I'm usually pretty straight talking. Ask Nick, he'll tell you. If he ever listens to this, he'll sit here and put his earphones in and have a bit of a chuckle at that one, because, I am a pretty honest person.
It's a hard thing to learn. I mean, I've had to learn with the biscuit, with USOC, with everything that was going on. I mean, like, I had to kill a really successful podcast. We were getting lots of listeners, lots of celebrities, but it was too rude. It was sounds daft, but I wanted someone I could partner up with the biscuit, so I had to kill it. And I had to make that decision. And I'm making decisions like who to keep on and who to let go, and you know, and you know, sort of assert myself. This is the direction we're going in. This is what I want, and this is what you're going to do for me. Whereas before, I've been like, if you like, maybe, you know. I'm not a maybe person anymore. This is what needs doing. Let's get it done. And that's the progression I've made. And I'm quite proud of that.
And that's something I couldn't have done, something like that, or made decisions like that even 10 years ago when I was 30. You know, I really couldn't. I think you do an awful lot of growing in your 30s. And I'm a very different person at 40 to what I was 10 years ago. And that's not a bad thing. I'm trying to look at the positives of being 40. I got my first tattoo when I was 40, though. I finally plucked up the courage, and I got my first tattoo last summer in London, in Camden. If you're going to ever have a tattoo, go to Camden and get one, because it's just the best experience. There's lots of things that have kind of happened throughout that decade that really prepare you for the next sort of chapters. We're all getting older, Alex. It's really sad and it's really depressing, but I'm trying to embrace it as much as I can.
I feel like I'm the same. I mean, I'm about to hit my mid-30s, right? So you are right. There's a lot of growth that goes on in the 30s, especially emotionally. I feel, because you got to get used to the fact that you're not a kid anymore. You know, you kind of got to make those responsible, and also the fact that, you know, if I'm not going to do this now, I'm not going to do it ever. True. That's the most important thing. Very good point.
Yeah.
I'd like to just revisit LinkedIn for a second again, because I would love. Do you know any sort of, if someone was going to start a LinkedIn now to try and sort of boost their opportunities?
Yeah.
Do you know many good people to sort of follow?
Definitely.
So, who would you suggest that they could follow, that they can learn from?
Yeah.
LinkedIn?
So, I've got a few. There's a girl who is an entrepreneur who I actually linked in with, and I followed her and I loved her content, and I gave her a shout out one day, and I was like, you know, this particular person, she's called Francesca Giacario, and she's an accountant, right? So she's created her own brand of accountancy firm with her friend Rachel, and they're called Future Cloud Accountants, and they believe in doing things differently. They're two very pretty, very attractive girls, right? So they're not your typical, and I'm not saying accountants are stuffy or anything like that, but they definitely bring a very fresh approach and perspective, because they just say it exactly how it is. And she has a hashtag that she uses. She has two. One is just post it, and one is hashtag the journey is real. And she documents everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, all kinds of stuff. And it's her sort of 6:30 in the morning trying to cook her kids breakfast whilst on Zoom on a chain call or whatever. And she's she's very brave. She's probably braver than I would be. I'm not as brave to do that, but she will put her life on LinkedIn, and it is just post it. And I gave her a shout out last summer and said, love seeing content from Francesca Tricario. She's a really inspirational businesswoman. She's based in Nottingham. I don't know this girl. Anyway, she hit me up on messaging, and she said she fancied a Zoom call. So we had a bottle of Prosecco together one night on Zoom during lockdown, and just had a really good chat about, all kinds of stuff. We're both parents. We've got lots in common. But her content is really, really positive. It's always well written, and it is just generally, she's just a bit of a superstar. So Francesca Tricario, definitely. Kerry Hargest is another one. She just has very motivational, inspirational posts. She's been made redundant because of COVID, so it's been her journey through that and trying to break back into the right markets and get her CV in front of the right people, and how she's done that. Honestly, LinkedIn, it's a social media platform, but it's like Facebook for professionals almost. But it really will help you if you're looking for a job. It will definitely help you. So yeah, I definitely say to get involved with LinkedIn.
So if I want to, I have my microphone. Sorry, my microphone's gone a bit weird. It's gone. Sorry about that. I really apologize. How embarrassing! This new mic is turning out to be more of a hindrance than a good tool. LinkedIn I really do need to try better on, because like I said, it is if I want someone to be like, okay, we'll take on Alex Whiteley as a radio host for this such and such,
jump on there, for sure.
I really do need to sort of work on that. If people want to get in touch with you and for help with what you guys do, how can they get in touch? So
we're based on Shrewsbury Business Park, which most people know, I think, just off Elmstree Island. My email, I'm happy, to share. So jess@teamforyou.today. Best place to get a hold of me really is LinkedIn. So connect with Jess Bailey, or any of my colleagues, and we'll absolutely have a chat with you about what your recruitment needs are if you are looking for staff, or if you're looking for a new opportunity, then definitely please do get in touch.
I think you're great. I think what you guys do is fantastic.
Cheers,
and I'm glad we finally got to do this, because I do remember editing the thing from the W60 thing at Hickory's now. And I think we said then that we were going to do something, and we never did. So I'm glad we finally got to do it. I'm just ashamed that it's when it is that we've done it. But I think we could document what's going on through the pandemic, and when things start to open up, we'll find out what you guys are up to. I'd really like that if we do that.
Let's keep in touch. And absolutely insane. We'll definitely plug the Biscuit podcast and get you guys out there as much as we can too.
Yeah, there's going to be a few changes going on with what we do, because obviously we've got the studio and the parade. We're looking at different ways we can be helpful, and one of them is through social media. And I think LinkedIn is actually going to be a good place for what we're going to be doing, because we're opening up a new streaming service. We're going to be on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn by the looks of it. I think it's a fantastic idea. We want to do like a virtual marketplace, a virtual market showcase. That's what I'm calling it. So we speak to local traders from the market hall if they've got a new business and they want to come and join us and talk to us about what they do. Yeah, it's fantastic. So if you've got anybody in mind that you might want to share,
for sure, definitely. I think anything, I'm always up for collaborating with anything that drives local business, especially independents, and making sure that they get all the support that they need, because they are really going to need it when we come out of this. In most industries, I think anyone that's been forced to either close or put their plans on hold or whatever they were doing, again, lots of local restaurants and things like that. Maybe I just eat and drink out a lot. I don't know. I obviously must do, but I kind of can give some amazing local recommendations on things like that, and people that I know would love to get involved.
Oh, amazing. And Shane's signed us up for a hot wing challenge, which is great. Thank you, Shane Hinton. That we're going to be doing in collaboration with Feast. So he's going to give us a premises so we can be socially distanced, get some wings in, have a quiz and do it all live on Facebook.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, he's going to cook the wings up for us, and we're going to get the sauces and raise some money for charity mainly.
How can you do the hot sauce? Do you do the really hot sauce? Can you manage that?
Well, we did something with USUC. We had a celebrity reading out a quiz for us, and we had the hottest wing sauce on the planet, apparently. And it went up in stages. sort of 12 stages. So we had 12 rounds, 2 questions around, and we just get hotter and hotter and hotter. And by the end of it, me and my American and my British co-hosts will just die in.
I would fail at round 1, round 2, maybe.
I thought I would. This was one of the shocks for me, because I thought I wasn't very good with hot food. Turns out I'm actually really good. Like we had David Raby, who's my friend in Santa Ana in California. He's a Mexican guy, and he was dying. He was actually dying, and I was like, okay.
Oh wow!
To be fair,
Yeah, fair play. I would be awful. I think a chicken pasanda is about as hot as I go in an Indian. I'm pretty rubbish.
This wing challenge is a great idea to get local sort of butchers, suppliers of spices. I think we're speaking to Adam Pennell to come on our first show. That Shropshire Lad would be great to do something like that. We've got loads of amazing ideas, and this is what lockdown is bringing us. Is that we sit there and we think, don't we? We sit there and we think of new ideas.
Yeah, and sometimes time to think can be a good thing, and sometimes it's not a great thing, is it? But I think if you can really channel that sort of train of thought into something that's actually going to produce something, then that's great. Yeah, for sure.
So there you go, folks. Don't try and complete Netflix. Come up with new ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think you've been amazing to talk to. Thank you so much, Jess.
Thank you for having me, Alex. Really appreciate it.
It really has. I'd love for you guys to check out our website, which is www.theshrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk, and that's made for us by our friends at Web Orchard. They're amazing. If you need a website, make sure you check them out.
Pete White.
Yes, Pete.
Yeah, I know Pete very well. There you go.
He's a good guy.
This is a small place.
It is. He sorted us out with our USUC website as well. If you need to look at how quality websites are made, make sure you check out our website, and you'll see.
Will do.
It's great. If you want to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us for the website. I would just like to as well say to people, even though there's not much going on there right now, just nip on over to our YouTube channel. Just give us a subscribe, because like I said, there's going to be lots going on virtually with the biscuit. But you might want to just have that button there just in case you want to sort of tune in, because it's going to be fun. What's going on. Jess, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Not at all. Thank you so much for having me, Alex.
It's been amazing. Guys, we'll catch you next time. Peace out.